read.
Within the same context, you made mention of Samuel Obwazizi and the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon.
Yeah.
Also a disturbing concern that a crisis since 2016, an armed conflict, people are being displaced in their numbers, the displacements are continuous, the killings are ongoing, burnings and destructions are ongoing in a country presented as the leader of a sub-region and as a democratic country. Is that not ironical, though?
Very ironical, and very ironical. And it's interesting because the last time that we had our conversation here on this wonderful program, when that question was asked, what the viewers did not notice was that I bled. Just out of a sudden, you remember.
Yeah, very well. I
just started bleeding, and we were all shocked and worried that something could happen to me. And I shed tears.
Exactly.
Because I could see lives being lost for no reason. These are political grievances that are legitimate, that are known, that did not even start in 2016. These grievances started in 1961. Frontier complained about them. The people who went with Frontier to Fuban Conference complained about them. Muna complained about them when he walked out of the tripartite constitutional conference in 95, 96 or so. These things are known. They are well documented, these grievances. And when they came up in 2016, 2017, the most brilliant move that every leader would have done, any reasonable leader, would have to say, this is a political issue. We're going to resolve it politically. And the way you resolve political issues is not through the bayonet. Look at where we are today, 7 years later. Thousands of deaths, including civilians and military personnel. Police, gendarme, military. Thousands. Over 800,000 internally displaced persons who have been dislocated from their villages, from their towns, from their regions. I spoke with someone who said, even in the extreme north, you find people who have escaped the northwest and southwest to seek refuge in the extreme north, where there's also Boko Haram. I visited refugee camps in Nigeria, 12 refugee camps. Those are just those I could visit to do food drives. There are over 70,000 registered. These are the ones that are registered Cameroonian refugees in Nigerian states, in Nigerian camps. We are not even counting those that have gone there and have not registered. But we could have resolved all of this politically if we approached it in good faith. And even recently, when Canada offered to say, Canada did not even say it would mediate. Canada just said, I will provide a platform for you all Cameroonians to come sit down outside of the country context so everyone can speak their mind. Speak amongst yourselves. Figure out what you agree on and what needs to be fixed so that this crisis could be brought to an end. And within that month, 1 month, between the time that Canada made that announcement and when the government announcement came out, there was a sense of calm. There were fewer skirmishes. There was a sense of hope. People began to say, oh, finally, these political leaders, civil society leaders are going to sit down and iron out the differences so we can have peace. But when the government came down, it's more than a year now. See how many people have been killed in this past 1 year. See how much property has been destroyed. I mean, just a few weeks ago, 11 February, look at what happened in Cambe with young kids. These kids have been traumatized. We are all being traumatized by this crisis. Even the level of violence across this country now, whether it's domestic violence and violence at other levels, is more than we experienced in the last decade. Because somehow, the images coming out of the northwest and southwest, in certain minds, seem to say violence is okay.
Because we've seen people being executed in public places.
Of course. People being executed in
the
public.
case of Gozang, where people were executed on the public place. We've seen people being, as you just taking the case of Kambe, all sorts of atrocities. Now, I'm not stopping your developments on this same issue, but you are having a view that, by my understanding, ties directly with a recent interview granted a popular newspaper, the Post newspaper. In today's edition, they made an interview with the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon, talking about this crisis specifically. He said that it is actually a situation that deserves a political solution, because he said the crisis lies in the hands of the government and the people of Cameroon, as into they need to sit and talk.
They need to sit and talk.
And this same proposal and this opinion has been coming on and up again, but it looks like there's some manifested lack of the will to do so.
There's a lack of political will to do so, I strongly believe. I know that in government, not everybody has the same view. There are some people who have the political will, who have the mindset that this is a political issue that can be resolved politically. But it looks like they're overpowered by the people who believe that a hardline approach is the best approach. But, you know, hypothetically, let's just imagine, suppose everybody who is in the bush came out today and put down their arms. Would anyone in Yaoundé believe that the Anglophone grievances have been dealt with? They will be fooling themselves. You know, between 1961 at reunification and 2016, when the last phase of the crisis came to the fore, no one, despite the grievances, despite the companies that were erased from West Cameroon, despite the things that were done with the West Cameroon police force and all of that, nobody, not one individual, was killed in former West Cameroon or in the whole country because he was an Anglophone. Today, in the minds of many people, the people who have died through this crisis have died because of their affiliation to the Anglophone culture. Even the boys who have arms, and you can say if somebody has arms and he shoots at the soldier, then he has a right to be killed. But in the psychology, in the mindset of their relatives, of their friends, of people in their villages, they would know that these people died because they were fighting the Anglophone cause. So in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, when the history of this country is going to be written, the period from 2017 to when the crisis ends will be considered a very dark period in this country's history. And how are you going to change the mindset of the people who have now been aggrieved, not just because of what happened between 1961 and 2016, but because of the extra killings that have taken place between 2017 and when the crisis ends?
And villages that no longer exist.
And over 200 villages that have been erased.
It gets even more frustrating when a population like that of Ngabu say that today, many years after the Ngabu massacre, even though the government's report, the report from the presidency actually indicated that soldiers did that, but the people of Ngabu are still clamoring for justice, and they don't know if those those indicted in that report have been sanctioned, and they've tried everything possible, going for one case adjournment to the other. They're tired, and nothing has been done. It gets more frustrating.
It gets really frustrating, and that's why it's really important to have a political process that will resolve this crisis. Because when you go through a political process, then you deal with issues of transitional justice. How can we go back and look at the atrocities that happen on both sides or on all sides and make amends with the families that were aggrieved? You know, those kinds of elements get integrated into a political process. When you go through a military path, at the end, when the shooting stops, everybody goes home, and then there's nothing to see here. And that's why, from my experience, I have seen countries that have dealt with more challenging difficulties than we have. I'm involved in the Ukraine process, as you know, the Grain from Ukraine initiative. I was in Kiev, in Ukraine, in November, the third week of November, at the 90th anniversary of the celebration of the massacre when Russia, 19 years ago, attacked Ukraine, and 3 million Ukrainians were starved to death under Stalin. And in that weekend, while I was there, Russia fired 100 missiles and drones into Kiev, the capital. And we had to all dive into the bunkers to hide out. But I just say that to say there are more complex conflicts in the world that people are trying to resolve politically. And some have actually succeeded. Even Senegal that we're talking about. Senegal is resolving its Casamance issue. And you know where the agreement was signed? Between Senegal and the fighters in Casamance? In Guinée-Bissau. In Guinée-Bissau à côté. Mais en dehors du Sénégal, dans un pays qui est moins développé que le Sénégal, mais à partir du moment où ce pays pouvait trouver une plateforme pour que le Sénégal puisse discuter avec ceux qui se battaient dans la Casamance, ils ont pu trouver un accord et le pays est renforcé de ce fait.
Alors, Dr. Christopher Fomunyan remain one of those honest Southern Cameroonians that we still be for this planet Earth, and we talk truth with power without fear or favor. When he talk, hear the way an honest man will talk. When I not say La Republic get a system where it make sure say he absorb all the people the way they talk true. If he try to take you money, you know, agree, they go find you for quarrel you. Don't say how they do about Barrister Keme, they don't do plenty of a bona fide Southern Cameroonian. So at the talk say this, so Dr. Christopher Fomunyan, you know, maybe one of those kind of people the way they play that Bel politics for La Republic. You know, they play that crash my back, I crash your own kind politics. With the young man will be honest in which way they talk, in the articulation them and everything. No matter thing where I probably go, they will always come for that table because the grievances of the people of Southern Cameroon, they be genuine, they be legitimate. That means say, even for the next generation, those grievances they will still be in place. And La Republic get a one way to use them for all things, divide and rule. So you see, I say this, so along as time they go, you know the whole again. I want to thank Dr. Christopher for being here for that one. And my brother and sister, mommy and papa, them, I simply tell when I say, when we hear to be good for Ambazonia struggle to bring up on them, don't forget say if you share them, other people they watch them. You know say this, so we work out this, so they on education, they for sensitization, and they for inform people them in which way we pass for this Ambazonia struggle. Thank you very much. I'll see you again for our next update. My name is Fabani Nipu, my friend, my brother, and my family. Bye bye for now.